Welcome, everybody. This is episode 6 of the Lamb Talks podcast. Today, I have the honor of having Tasso Kiriakes. He is a lifelong Orthodox Christian. He owns his own fitness center called Bodies. Check it out. Also, he has devoted his life to helping the youth with many things such as oratorical and Goya. And also, what else? uh, yeah, so today we're going to be talking about motivation and discipline. So, firstly, I'm going to ask the question of, well, let's just start off with, why do you believe in God?
Well, it's part of my makeup, I guess. From when I was young, I never had to question anything else.
Do you think you were forced into it, or do you think?
No. When I was 5 years old, my father passed away, and my brother was off in the service. He happened to be 14 years older than I was, and what became the center of my universe basically was the church and the people in that church, people like your Papu and other people who I looked up to. So I really never knew anything other than being part of this community, St. Demetrius, that was a church.
Mm-hmm.
And I never saw it as just a Greek community. I never saw it as anything other than this church. I went and I had my best friends there, and it was my social circle, and has always been.
Do you think with your dad passing, you became closer to God or more far apart?
I think I became closer because it gave me the opportunity to see what was there culturally and family-wise, support-wise in the church, because I'm not one of those people, like as I taught Sunday school, I had people who were 12, 13, 14, one of their parents would pass away and they become angry. And I've always been very thankful that I never had that thing happen to me. I never had it happen to me where I was angry at God. I remember the night I heard my mom screaming my father's name in the bedroom, and I ran into the kitchen, and I was in the kitchen. I was standing between the stove and the refrigerator, and I was doing the Lord's Prayer. And I never walked away from that with believing anything other than this is what God, it happened. It's just what it is. And I believe the things that occurred that night made me a better person. And it's part of why I like working with youth. It's part of why I've always tried to be involved in, whether it's athletics, coaching people, stuff at church. I've always been involved because people reached out to help formulate who I became.
So you trying to give back.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a difference between, for example, because obviously you are in charge of the altar at our church, and do you think it's you're more engaged in the service in the altar versus in the pews?
Depends what your attitude is, what your they say your phronima, your culture. I sometimes feel guilty because in the altar, you've always got another task. You're always thinking about. You really don't get involved in your own prayer rule at that time because you're always looking to see that everything moves smoothly, everything's ready, questions are answered, things are prepared. You're cutting the prospero, you're just the hot water that the priest needs. All those things are tasks that you have. So one part of it, you say, well, maybe I'm not as involved in the liturgy mentally as I would be, but there's a calm that you're involved in. And liturgy does mean work of the people, and you're definitely doing work in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Again, I've been to where I've been to churches, and it was very easy to be distracted when I was out in the nave. And it might have been because I was ADHD. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
all right, let's shift into motivation, discipline. So let's start off with first thing in the day. You wake up. Why is it important to wake up early versus sleep in?
Well, you get up early, you sort of get the first opportunity to do things. Your mind is fresh, you're well rested. And, a big part of why people are successful or sick or in shape or not out of shape is their morning routines they have. And there's so much stress in this world. When you get up in the morning, that stress isn't on you. And part of why people get sick is they get an imbalance or a maladaptation of their body. So they now have diseases that come on and illnesses, all because of stress. We have a saying in our business that inflammation is the cause of all major diseases. That's number one principle. Number two is that stress is the mother of all inflammation. And number three, our system reverses that inflammation, relieves that stress, so we move you back towards health. Yeah. So we're really more than some of the people that watch us, they go to a gym. It's much more than a gym. Our thing isn't about giving a person a six-pack as much as it giving people optimal health and ideal energy and being able to work from that standpoint.
You talked about routine. Why is it important to have a routine?
Well, it takes less brain power. You know what to expect in the day. Mm-hmm. You get up with a routine. You know what to expect. And the more you can know what to expect and plan your day, the smoother your day runs. So most people, if you talk to most people who are get frustrated with the day, it's because things that are unexpected have come to them. And those things coming to them and disrupting their day, that disruption is something that puts them off their course. So they go home, they're frustrated because they didn't get as much done. They didn't make many sales. They didn't see as many clients. All those things occur if you don't have a system and a plan and a schedule that you follow. And it also lets you know that when you get into a disruption in the day, it's easy to get back on course because, what's the next thing I got to do, right? Yeah. All time planning, all goal management programs say, pick the three most important things you got to do in a day and get those done. And then you're going to be successful.
What does your routine look like?
Yeah, I get up, I probably get up 4:30 to 5 o'clock in the morning almost every day. I get up and I drink some water. I sit down with my prayer book. Takes me about 25 minutes to go through my prayer and do my list of people on my prayer book. I basically do the same prayers every day. If I finish a little bit early, earlier than 20, 25 minutes, I'll usually read the epistle reading for the day or gospel reading for the day. After that, I'll do some breathing exercises and relaxation. I have a device called a beamer, and I have a device called a brain tap that right after I'm done with that, I'll do a brain tap, which helps me sort of center myself for the day focus-wise. And the beamer helps me increase my circulation and make sure that I'm well rested when I go to work. And then I usually will have clients anywhere from 5:30 in the morning to 6:15 in the morning. Before I go there, I take a shower. If I have time, like if I don't have a client till 8 o'clock, when I finish my morning routine of prayer and beamer and all that, I'll run down to the club. I'll do a 6 to 8 minute bike ride. I'll do some stretches, and then I'll come back to the house, make breakfast, shower, and go back to work.
So you said you like take an 8 minute bike ride or whatever. Why do you think it's important to exercise? Why should we?
Well, we're a machine, right?
Yeah.
If you leave your car sitting out front of your house all day long, it's not going to be lubricated. It's not going to run as well. So movement will mean the improvement in what you do every day. And it gets the body moving. It gets you focused, gets you working from the standpoint. And here's the other thing is, as we go through stressful situations in our life, if you look at a baby, right, sitting in a crib, and that baby's breathing, you see their whole back. Their back expands, comes back. They're breathing very deep. Mm-hmm. As people get stressed out, they begin to breathe very shallow. Walk through like a high stress, like
hyperventilating.
Well, not so much hyperventilating, but they don't go right. They don't. That deep breathing is what everybody likes to talk about biohacking, but that's a hack to your body to build your immune system and your lymphatic system. So your lymphatic system gets rid of waste. So when you breathe deep, like one of the main things I do in the morning is take 3 really deep breaths, diaphragmatic breaths, and then twist and move so that I'm moving fluid through my body and getting rid of waste product because I've slept all night or whatever. So when we get active first thing in the morning, and most people go like 8 minutes. 8 minute bike ride doesn't do anybody any good, but here's what's different. A lot of people go to the gym and they ride their bike for 30 or 40 or 50 minutes. And what they do is they do a quote unquote aerobic workout. Truth of the matter is that's highly oxidative on the body, puts a lot of stress. It's built to have me ride the bike for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 minutes because I want to lose weight. The way we look at it is we say, okay, we're going to get on this bike for 8 minutes. We're going to ride 2 minutes to warm up our joints and that. And then for 10 to 12 seconds, as hard as I can hit it, boom, I'm going to hit it as hard as I can. I back off. I take 2 to 3 minutes. I bring my heart rate back down. I relax. And then, boom, I hit it again. So with a 2 to 3 10-second bursts in that 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So your body is trying to avoid being in what's called sympathetic stress, what people will understand as fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
Stress causes that to us. That makes us breathe, makes our heart rate goes up, puts out hormones that store fat in our belly, makes us not feel as energetic, steals our energy, makes our mitochondria in our cell, which are the powerhouses, make them work less effectively. So what happens to us when that occurs is we get sluggish, we're not as productive. So when you get up and you get this exercise bout and you work that hard for that 10 seconds, you stimulate what's called the parasympathetic system. It now is the parachute of health that helps the body rest and digest and recover. So your cell membrane walls get better, your mitochondria get better, your digestion gets better, your fat burning gets better. So what's the number one people say about exercise? I don't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this doesn't take time. It takes 5 to 8 minutes of stretching and breathing, and then 6 to 8 minutes on a bike, and you're done. And then once you stimulate that parasympathetic system, you'll get on a beamer, you go do a relaxation on a massage, hydro massage, you do a cryo type of thing, like a cold shower, and now you have helped that parasympathetic system function better. So you get up in the morning now, you've taken care of the meditation of the mind, you put the mind in a healthy place, you've got the body moving, you got the hormones and everything balanced out. Now you go into the day and you're clear-minded, you're energetic, and you're prepared because you have a system you're going to go through the day.
You mentioned cold showers and stuff. What's the difference? Like, what benefits come from a cold shower versus a hot shower?
Well, hot shower is going to warm up your joints and make you feel good. A cold shower, and it doesn't have to be a whole cold shower. What it is about the last 90 seconds that you're in the shower.
Yeah.
If you'll turn your back to that shower and you'll turn it up as cold as it'll go, and you let it hit it at the back of your nape of your neck, and you can stand like it took me a while to get to 90 seconds, right? To do that. When you do that, it starts your fat burning. It makes your mind sharper, and it just wakes you up and gives you that energy.
Yeah.
No.
Why is it important to drink water?
Well, 80% of your body is water, right?
Yeah.
You gotta take nutrition in. You want to get waste products out. I mean, if you this river that's across the street from your house here, if all we ever did was bring the waste products in and we didn't move them out, there wouldn't be any fish that lived there. It'd smell really bad. You couldn't drink the water, right? But if you have water, you're drinking water to flush out. Think of an aquarium. What would happen to that aquarium over there if you never changed the water? If you never took the water, if you never filtered it out, your fish would die, right?
Yeah. So
then you would subject yourself to toxicity if you're not flushing the body with water.
So, like, for example, what are some of like the side effects of someone who doesn't drink water? Like, do they get agitated? Do they get like short tempered?
Well, they're gonna get to where they lose their energy. They're gonna lose brain function at some point. A lot of people say, "Well, I'm drinking coffee." Well, coffee is a diuretic. It's taking water out of your system. And besides that, you've got the caffeine, which caffeine isn't bad, but too much caffeine is an adrenal stimulant. And the whole core of what happens with stress in our lives is we overstimulate the adrenal glands.
Also, like people who just drink soda, a lot of soda has sodium in it, which makes you more thirsty.
And it has sugar.
Yeah.
It has sugar in it as well.
Let's talk about like why we were talking about water and stuff. Let's talk about like why you should eat healthy.
Well,
healthier.
If Lambo, you were to have a thoroughbred horse,
yeah,
you paid millions of dollars for that horse. You wanted to win the Kentucky Derby, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you feed that horse cubes of sugar, or would you feed a diet that made his body function the best? The best fuel for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't put half water, half gas into your gas tank of your car, right? You'd put the best gas you could put in. You'd put the best oil. You wouldn't put vegetable oil in it. So why not eat healthy and make this machine that's your body run the best it can?
True. Why is it important to have goals?
Well, you're either going to have the goals that you're going to pursue, or you're going to be part of helping someone else succeed at their goals.
Yeah.
So I always think it's better to have the goals that you want to accomplish and you have a plan for, and you have them to motivate you to keep you on track. Because if I get up in the morning and I have no goals, I might as well just lay in bed all day, because my goal there'll be days that I have my goal is to sleep 10 hours, 12 hours. But that was the goal for the day, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to succeed at it.
Is it like, should you do high goals, like, or like just like regular?
Well, you should go do goals that challenge you and make you better. I mean, how many people want to be at a job and they make X number of dollars today or this year, and next year they want to make 1/3 less. They want to make 1/3 more, right? So the goals will help me identify what I have to do to get to my goal. You know, when I was in college, I had I used to tell this story. I said, when I was in college, I went into my senior year of college, and I said, I want to get into medical school. I want to win a national championship as a wrestler. I want to wrestle in the Olympics and win a gold medal. I want to get married and have 3 sons. And when my 3rd son wrestles in the same tournament I do, I'll leave my shoes on the mat and I will retire at that point. So I tell people, I didn't get into medical school. I didn't win a national championship. I didn't win a gold medal in the Olympics. I didn't marry and have 3 boys. I had 3 girls. And as a result, I had to wrestle until I was like 58, 59 years old before I finally said, my body's telling me I need to quit. But you say, oh man, he failed at all his goals. But those goals had me strive for something bigger and better that made me be a better person, made me be healthier, made me learn more. And it was always about striving to be better. Look, we're Greeks, right? I was preached this by my brother from when I was a little kid. Greeks are amazing because all the things we brought culturally to the world. But the principle of why we're successful is we have sound mind, sound body, sound spirit. We never looked at it just being one thing. We never looked at just being smart. We didn't look at it as just being strong or in shape or being more spiritual. All 3 had to balance because we didn't have an imbalance to us, and we could survive in society better. We could handle situations better. So that was preached to me from when I was a little kid that, hey, you're Greek. You have to have this body, mind, and spirit kind of consciousness.
You mentioned the body, mind, and soul. How does exercise and eating healthy influence your body, mind, and soul?
Well, it makes the body as healthy, but it also makes the mind function. And, you know, one of the important parts of, again, going back to what differentiates us from a normal gym program is this. Very rarely will you hear an exercise physiologist talk about journaling, having a journal where you write in and you think of things like gratitude, things you have gratitude for. Very rarely do they tell you, they may tell you need to do yoga, but very rarely do they tell you to take time for mentally thinking about who you are, what you are, what you're. One of the hardest things we have to do with a client is to do 2 things. Have them create a future memory. In other words, where they want to be a year from now, and do it very vividly. Because most people will say, what do you want to accomplish? They'll go like, oh, I want to be thinner. I want to be healthier. I want to be stronger. I want to be whatever. But what are you going to have because of that? Are you going to be smarter? Are you going to be more successful? Are you going to have a better family life? So it's important to understand what your future memory, and to get to the future memory, you have to create what we call an I am statement. Who are you? What do you want to be? If you don't write that statement and identify it, and you want to talk about motivation, but this is what drives motivation, is that you have something you're shooting for. And again, just like my story about my goal setting, it doesn't matter if I make that goal or not. I can't be crushed if I don't make it. It matters that I pursued the goal, and it took me to challenge myself. You know, I tell people tell me, well, that's tough or that's hard. I said, well, look, I told my grandson, if it's not tough, it doesn't make you better. Mm-hmm. If it's not hard, it doesn't make you stronger. And if it's easy, it's not worth bragging about. So it's not worth being proud of it if it were easy. So goals are meant to challenge us and drive us along. And you see people who, back to your question of balance of those three, of having a healthy mind, body, and soul, what if all you did was work out and you never developed yourself intellectually or spiritually? Or what if you were just a really smart person? You ever watch Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
Show.
Sheldon, right?
Yeah.
Really smart, but a pain in the ass, right? Okay. Who would want to be his best friend? And so those are the things you want to look at and how we balance those parts of us.
So we're gonna shift into like self-talk. Like, so why is it important to like tell yourself, oh, I'm strong, I'm this, I'm that? Why is it like more important to do that versus like just negatively talk about yourself? But I wanted to say one thing is that I was in 5th grade. My teacher, Miss Gable, she was like, she did this challenge. I went up to the class and I hold my hands out, and then like she was like, keep saying I'm weak, I'm weak, I'm weak, and then and then she pushed on the hands, and then my hand went down, and then she was like, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, and then boom, and my hand was strong. So let's talk about the power of your words.
Well, words are powerful. That's true. And so that's just not psychosomatic. I believe the Japanese guy's name was Yamamoto, and he did a research topic. Did several, but here's the 3 basic ones I think will be good. He had water in one room. He went into the water, and every day it's like, oh, water, you're so life-giving. You're so beautiful. I love you, water. You're the greatest. He walked into the other room. And he said, you suck. You're horrible. What are you doing on this earth? All you do is take up space. And then after he did that for a period of time, he froze the water. And the water that had been spoken to nicely and sweetly had these beautiful crystals in it.
Mm.
The one that was over here that had been talked negatively to, it had disruption. He did the same with plants. Yeah. Talk to the plants. Play nice music to the plants. Every time it was a positive influence. And here's why. Words are energy. Okay, words, we're going to give you energy or we're going to take energy from you. One of those 2 things are going to happen. And words, thoughts are all energy. So, and this is where the people who watch this say, "Guy, this guy's like from outer space and is woo-woo," right? But I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to tell you that it has to do with this, but understand that when we put good energy out, we put good vibrations out, right? When we're angry, we put bad vibrations out. Okay? So I had a wrestler who committed suicide. And I was amazed by the fact that he committed suicide. So his mother calls me, and I'd never met her before. She says, Tasso, my name's Chris. You don't know me. You've never met me. My son Garrett wrestled for you. And he said there was a couple of things you always did with him. Number 1, you talked to him about your faith. You talked to him about being better as an athlete. And you talked chemistry with him, because that was what my master's degree was in. And he said, and he really enjoyed being around you. And I know you know that he committed suicide. And the story around why he committed suicide, so she goes, I want to let you know the story so I can tell you the whole story. So evidently, he had been abused by his father, and his mother had been abused by his father. The mother had been put in critical condition in the hospital. The kid was a really smart kid, right? So when he came home from college one year and his father was beating his mother, he actually defended his mother and took a hammer and killed the father. So he ran off, and they found him back in his dorm room at school. They cornered him, and rather than being caught, he committed suicide. Mm. And so she said, and here were the important parts of this. She said to me at the very outset of the phone call, she says, we're not religious and we're not spiritual. She says, but I need to find closure for my family. And I've gone to all these non-denominational churches, and they all want me to jump through some hoop so that they'll do something to help the memory of my son. I said, you know, I'm really not sure the Orthodox Church can do that for you, because we're pretty strict, right? We're pretty rigid. We have our framework, right? Well, as it would happen, His Grace, His Eminence allowed us to use the church for a service that was not a service like we would see. It was a memorial service. It was where we typically see in a lot of Protestant funerals. Everybody stands up and talks. In this one, we added some prayers that was suggested, that were prayers from the funeral service. And there's no priest. And we, His Eminence said, read these 4 prayers, have people talk about them, and say this final prayer. And he says, there's only one thing I want his mother to do. I want her to go to a Kiriakes service. Does Father Joseph do one? Yes, he does. So I got her on the phone. I said, Chris, I have sort of good news, but knowing that she was very apprehensive about everybody wanting to make her do something like give a certain amount of money or do this or do that. I said, the bishop has a plan for us, but there's something you got to do. And she was real cynical. She goes, what is it? And I said, she wants you to go to a 45-minute healing service at our church on Wednesday night. There's a long pause, and with a little more energy in her voice, she goes, I can do that. I said, great. I told her how to get there. I told her what time. At that time, there weren't a lot of people. Now you go to Kiriakes, we see 30 people there. At that time, there were maybe 5. So she's, I see this lady I don't know sitting in the pews. I come out of the altar after the service. I go to her, and she's crying. Now, mind you, the whole service is in Greek. She's crying. I go, Chris? She goes, Tasso? I go, yes. She goes, oh my God. I felt like something lifted off of me tonight. And I said, that's wonderful. She says, I feel so good. And I'm wondering, she was telling me she was moved. I was wondering why, because it was all in Greek. She's not Greek. So then Father comes out. I introduce Father to her. And the next thing I know, Father's saying to her, she's leaving. She goes, okay, Chris, I'll see you at Divine Liturgy tomorrow morning. And I'm walking back next to Father, and I say, Father Joseph, did you not hear what I say? I said, she's not spiritual or religious. He goes, let God take care of it. So the next day I get a phone call at work, and it's her on the phone, and she's crying again. And she says, I felt so foolish, but I feel so good. I said, why? She says, I was crying in church, and these 5 or 6 Greek ladies are all around me, comforting me, and so much pain and hurt came out of me. And the first thing I said to myself, I said, Greek ladies taking care of a strange blonde-haired woman in our church? I said, she must have gone to the wrong church, right? But the fact of the matter was that she got something out of it. Well, at the same time, 2 other side stories to make you understand about energy and vibration and that. So at the time, if you came to work out with me, I would do what was called a quantum infinity profile on you, which means I took a picture of you and you talked. And the vibration of your energy would tell us many things about you. What we were concerned about were what your body systems, the balance of your body systems. When you was trying to balance that person, you put a frequency out to them. It would go and it would go and it would go and it would say, client balanced, frequency of 528 megahertz love being emitted now. So it would balance them, and then we give them this love frequency. So I thought it was complete bull. I'm going like, okay, whatever. I'm getting good information. Whatever, right? So then we were going to have Beach Reach, our big retreat here. And it was called, the theme that year was the future of church is in your sounds today.
Hmm.
And it was about music. And I'm reading up for it, and I'm talking to some people who can come interview. And I read this article, and it says, the healing nature of Byzantine music is evidenced by the frequencies of 526 through 529 healing frequencies of love, detoxification, and pain relief. So now we understand why people go to church and they feel better. They didn't necessarily have to understand the words, which you go back and think about it. When we were cradle Christians or cradle Orthodox and we went to church and we were in church and we just and we were just absorbing it, it was actually good.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't know what the hell was going on, right? Mm-hmm. And so now you become even more powerful when you understand those words and the purpose of those words and all that. You become much more powerful for yourself. So that's the essence of what the church does. But the thing of positive talk, I'm not as big a believer in that as you might think, because I could sit here all day long and say I have a full head of hair, I have a full head of hair, I have a full head of hair. I'm not going to get a full head of hair. Yeah. But say I'm powerful and I'm going to do this and I'm doing this, or I talk about myself in the moment. I'm 190 pounds. I'm lean. It's going to drive my emotions. It's going to drive my actions because I'm placing that energy and I'm placing that thought process in my brain. Your brain has 3 parts to it. It has concerning motivation. It has RAS, reticular activating system. That's when you first bought your Tesla, right? When your parents first bought your Tesla, and you went driving and you said, God, I never realized there's so many Teslas out here.
Yeah.
Because it's on your radar, right? So that's what you're conscious of. So when you have this positive talk, you're conscious of you want to be better. You're conscious you want to be stronger. You're conscious you want to be leaner, right? The second part is called the EEM. The EEM is experiential emotional memory. If you would walk up as a 4-year-old kid and put your hand on a stove that was lit and you burned your hand, whenever you went by that stove again, your brain would go, your EEM would go like, Lambro, don't put your hand on the stove. You got burned, right? Then the final thing is the PFC, the prefrontal cortex. It's what gives us passion. It's what gives us courage to do things. It's what makes you want to go skydiving, right? It makes us be creative. So you constantly have a battle going on between the PFC, which is, here's what I think I can accomplish. I want to be a pro football player for some kids. And it's going, no. EM says, well, if you're a pro football, you're going to get hurt, you're going to break a bone. You can't do that, right? And so what you're concentrating on your RAS is what strengthens that battle between them so you move in the right direction. So that's why words are so powerful.
What about music? Does the type of music you listen to?
Music does exactly the same thing. Music has energy that it puts out. And some people levitate to certain kind of musics. But when we had that same seminar, Dr. Mike Epitropoulos, who you know, came and he had water and he actually put the sound waves into the water of the music and then had on an oscilloscope what it looked like. And there was music that were like all over the place. And then there was music that was nice frequencies. So, that gets in a whole debate about rock and roll and soul music and everything else. But yeah, music has a big influence on you. Music will help you focus and concentrate, or it'll rack you up too high and, make you think about other things.
When you work out, does it help you like lift more weights or heavier weights?
I actually prefer no music when I work out. And I'll tell you why. When I work out, let's say I'm working out and the music's playing, and it's my favorite song from when I was in college, and it's the favorite song I ever danced to with my girlfriend in college. Am I thinking about that extra rep I'm going to do, or am I thinking about that memory?
Same thing with like studying. That's why I never listen to music when I study, because you're not thinking about the.
You want to put your energy into what you're doing. Now, a lot of people want music, and we do have it, but then again, it's a distraction because people go like, "Oh, I don't like these people. Oh, I hate that. Oh, I love this stuff." You know. Mm-hmm. So now you have another discussion that's going on about why we should have this music on instead of that music, and guess what? The focus and intensity. I mean, think about this. One of the largest selling supplements right now is pre-workout supplements, right? Mm-hmm. What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to raise your brain awareness so you can focus harder during your workout. Well, if I don't have music on, I'm not distracted by anything else, I don't need to worry about what's going to distract me.
Oh, what about like in video games that have music that like makes your brain more focused, like that? What if you played that in your gym or something like that?
Well, I haven't gone that deep. I'm a little simple. I'm a little simpler than all that, but I'm sure there's an application to it. You know.
Let's talk about like your background. You went to school in University of Tampa. What are some of the things they taught you? Some of the experiences and some of like the tips they gave you for training and etc.
I never got any tips for training. I went there. I went there to go to pre-med. The medical school.
Some tips for that.
And I just you know what? It's 4 of the best years of my life. I went there to play football and wrestle. I ended up focusing on my wrestling, and I got a double major in biology and chemistry and a minor in math and physics. And I went from there. When I didn't get into med school, I went to graduate school in chemistry, and I came out of that, and my brother had opened a racquetball club, and I said, you know, I've been going to school. I went through the '76 Olympic trials. I went through the '76 national championships. I took the boards for medical school. I went to medical school interviews, and you know, I had a list of things that I hadn't accomplished, right? So I just needed a break. You know, I had to step back a moment. And my brother opened this racquetball club, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to help my brother here for a little bit and decide what I'm going to do after I had my master's degree. And I ended up loving the industry. And then I met a guy named Jim Flanagan and a guy named Arthur Jones. And Arthur Jones was the inventor of Nautilus, and Jim Flanagan was his director and his president. And those are the people that started giving me the philosophy of training that I now have. Because back then I would train 6 days a week. I'd run a lot. And that's why I now have a knee replacement surgery. Like the people doing these things like CrossFit and all that, when they get down the road a little bit, they're going to understand they really should have not been doing all that stuff to beat up their bodies. You know, we think we're gladiators and we think we're immortal at that point and indestructible, but the reality is you are. So I got into that side of the business, the training side of the business. And then they asked me about if I knew any guys that come down and do videos on wrestling that were world caliber. And a couple of my friends came down. And that started the whole process for me to train for the '80 Olympics. And their director of research, a guy named Ellington Darden, got me training with him. And my training was much reduced volume-wise, and I still performed really great. So I became a believer in that side of the philosophy.
Is there a time where you like had to rely on your faith instead of your own understanding?
Every day. The biggest moment was I was married, and Father George Papadeos was running a Bible study class. And I probably was 30-ish years old. And for the first time in my life, I realized that there was no such thing as the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost as separate people. It was one triune God.
I realized that the other day.
I was going like, what the heck is one triune God? And I said to Father, I said, Father, I just can't fathom this. And he tried to explain it to me a couple ways. And I'm going like, I just can't get this. And he said to me, he says, Tasso, he says, do you believe in what you've learned in the church or teach you anything bad? And I go, no, I don't, Father. He goes, there'll be times in your life where you will have to believe in something out of blind faith. And that will allow God to reveal other things to you. So I said, okay. And I just accepted it. There's a such thing as a triune God, 3 people, 1 essence, boom, boom. And not even a week later, I read a story of St. Spiridon and how he characterized with the brick. They took the brick, 1 God, boom, threw it on the ground, broke into 3 equal pieces, 3 essences, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one triune God. Yeah. So there have been times that blind faith had to be, and there had to be times when, Father Joseph tells me all the time when I get frustrated, he goes, think of all the things you've been through since I've been here for 15 years, and God brought you through it. And I think about, one of my daughters had an auto accident, and the lady was going to sue us for $10 million, and other times when I had expenses I didn't know how I was going to get through, the economy was bad, whatever it was. There's a time that you have to go back to your roots, and you have to think, and you have to pray, and you have to say, you have to humbly ask God to strengthen you and help you. And so the short answer is yes. Lots of times.
I was, for the people that don't understand like the 3 in 1, I saw this thing the other day. It was like, so water, there's ice, there's vapor, and there's water. Right. Each are the same
solid
thing.
Gas, liquid.
Each are the same thing, but in different forms. That made me understand. Yeah. So let's talk about we've been talking about, but go into more on how God has helped you in your life.
Well, I think that it gave me a purpose and a compass, because just like any kid that would, earlier I told you, I never really felt like I was angry at God for what had happened to me with my father.
Yeah.
But I believe that I was angry, period. So I believe there's times where I had choices I could make in the road, and I knew that those weren't pleasing to God. And so I chose, sort of like your little bracelet, what would Jesus do? Mm-hmm. I chose to say, if I was talking to Father John Athas, or to Father Nick Giotis, or Father Nick Manasakis, or Father Joseph, or Father George Savas, whoever our priest was, what would they tell me to do? Mm. So that continued my journey in that type of fashion.
What are some common struggles you see, like whether it's mental struggles, physical struggles, when you're training people one-on-one?
Well, I think there's a challenge for people to train properly and to train hard and to believe in themselves. I think some people don't understand. Nietzsche said that the story of the human race is a story of people selling themselves short. And people will start to experience challenge, and they'll melt away from it because they don't believe in themselves. Whether it's self-esteem, they look for other ways to validate themselves than to stay and accept the challenge and not run from a challenge. And it's the same in life, and it's the same in, that's why, whenever I take an athlete and I train them, I tell them, I say, I'm not going to make you a 500-pound bench press kind of guy. I'm going to make you mentally so much tougher that you'll defeat your opponent on mental toughness if you're close to them in skill and conditioning. So I think the toughest thing is that people have a very difficult challenge to accept the next step. It's easy to take the next step when you're in first grade because they make the desk really small and you can't fit there in second and third grade. So you got to move on, right? Mm-hmm. But when it's looking at our performance, it's hard to challenge ourselves mentally and physically so that we get better.
Do you think it's important, let's, for example, boxing, it's important to play mind games on your opponent? Like Jake Paul is, if you don't know, he's going against Mike Tyson.
He's going to fight Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
That's not a fight. That's an exhibition. Oh, they're wearing 20-ounce gloves. They're wearing headgears. And in the state of Texas, if Mike Tyson knocks out Jake Paul, he goes to jail.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Jake's got a chance. Who do you got, Mike Tyson?
Well, I think Mike Tyson is pretty tough. So,
Well, he's also
yeah,
past his prime. Jake is in his prime.
yeah.
But do you think it's important, like, because Jake Paul puts out a video like with like him biting an ear, like him doing this,
Well,
doing that?
he's taunting Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
That's all. That's something. That works sometimes. It doesn't work other times. I remember one time I was wrestling. I think in the '84 trials I was wrestling, and I was wrestling the youngest brother of two brothers I'd wrestled when I was in college, and I was leading the match, and it was really close to the end of the match, and we tumble out of bounds, and I get up and I go like, I said to the guy, I said, hey, what do you tell your brothers when you go home and tell them an old guy beat you? And he didn't say anything, and I ended up losing the match. So he hit me with a move. And as he helps me up at the end of the match, he goes, I'm going to tell him I kicked this old guy's ass. and some people can get away with it. Listen, Deion Sanders, he can talk smack, right? And still do great. Me, I think I needed to focus just on what I was doing and not open my mouth, right? So it's good for some people. It's in some people's nature that it hypes them up. And it truly is that there's some people that if you can make them mad or you can get them upset, I don't necessarily think that's going to work on Mike Tyson.
yeah.
I think Mike Tyson understands how to train hard enough and that he'll come in shape and I think all that'll do is motivate him. That's what they call it, billboard stuff or
What's your most successful client? Like somebody you helped conquer their goals.
Well, you really gotta put it in categories. I mean, is it
like whether it's in sports?
Is it the guy that was injured when I got him and he won a bronze medal in the 200 meters and 220 meters in Moscow at the World Championships? I mean, he actually ran a faster time than Usain Bolt.
Wow.
And then he just he didn't perform as well in the finals, but he ended up with a bronze medal. Is it a kid that won a national championship as a wrestler or as a tennis player or racquetball player? We had a string of years where we had lots and lots of racquetball players winning national championships. So each one carries their own victory. To me, my more fulfilling victories, when you take people who's on 14 medications, and you get them off it, and you become a healer of sorts to them, then I don't think of myself as a personal trainer, which I really don't. I think of myself as a health catalyst, person that helps a person get to a quality of life that they desire, So it's in categories, and there's in almost 50 years of training people and coaching people. This year, I got to tell you, I have a couple of proud things is that, this year I'm going to watch two guys in the Olympics that I trained their dads, and their dads, when they were younger, brought them down here to train with me.
Wow.
I haven't had much to do with them in the last 7-8 years, but I feel blessed to be part of that. Jaden. I'm very proud of Jaden and how he's performed. He's hopefully can get in and play ball in the state of Florida. He's been playing in Iowa. So things like that make me really proud to see what we do. And then the second part of that makes me really proud is the relationships I have with my members that have been through it. That, most health clubs, if you're a member of a health club, most people last there about 1.5 years. We have probably 70% of our members have been with us for 20 plus years. So they stay around us, they stay with us, So I think I'm more proud of the relationships rather than a single person, because like I said, everybody has a category that they can be successful at.
Do you think God called you to do what you do? And also, do you think, like, for the people out there who don't know what major to pick, how do you know what God wants you to do? Whether it's major, whether it's school, whether it's like in the work field?
Well, that's a multifaceted answer. I think that what I do is a ministry of sorts, because it allows me, the most common denominator that a young person wants to be affiliated with is their physical appearance and their physical performance, right? So I think in that way it was a blessing and it was a calling. It's something that I really enjoyed. But I also read a book when I was 34 or 35 years old that said, um, do what you want and the money will come.
Yeah.
And I think that because I pursued, I mean, people come to where I work and they think I'm on drugs half the time because I'm so happy and energetic and everything like that. But I'm doing it because I just love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I think you really have to find something that works for you, that you know exactly what you're doing. And the money, you have to find a way to survive where what the money gives you and take the blessings you got. So was I called to it? Well, I know I wasn't called to be a priest because my mother told me that. You know, she said, "No, you're not going to do that." So I don't know that it's a calling or that God just put me on a path and I didn't fight it very hard. You know, sometimes there's times where I'd say, maybe I should have gone back and tried to get med school after I started this whole journey. And there's times I go, nah, I've done more than I could ever have imagined doing. Met more people I could ever imagine meeting.
Before we go, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything that comes to your mind? Any closing remarks?
No, I think we pretty much covered a lot of it. And it is your show. So.
All right. Well, Tasso, Kiriakes, thank you very much.